Houses of the Holy is the fifth studio album by Led Zeppelin. Released in 1973, it's the first album they gave a title to, and it contains songs such as No Quarter, The Song Remains the Same, and The Rain Song, which would go on to feature prominently in their live performances going forward. Stylistically, it represents a significant step in the band's musical evolution. Following the immense commercial success of their untitled fourth album, commonly referred to as Led Zeppelin 4, the band used this opportunity to expand their sonic palette and push their creative boundaries. They maintained their hard rock foundation, but now they were incorporating elements of funk, reggae, and progressive rock to create a broader musical experience that continues to captivate listeners decades later. By 1972, Led Zeppelin had established themselves as one of rock's biggest acts. Their previous album had featured classics like Stairway to Heaven and Black Dog, setting an incredibly high bar for their next release. Rather than repeating the same formula though, the band chose artistic growth over commercial certainty. The album's title, Houses of the Holy, refers to concert venues, the sacred spaces where the band connected with their fans. Interestingly though, the song Houses of the Holy didn't appear on the album, but was held back for their next release, Physical Graffiti. Recording for the album began in May 1972 at Stargroves, Mick Jagger's country home in Hampshire, England. The Rolling Stones mobile studio, a state-of-the-art mobile recording unit built into a truck, was utilised for these initial sessions. This mobile studio was equipped with a custom-built Helios console, which had become something of a signature for many British rock recordings of the era. The only plan Zeppelin had was to write and record some songs, Page said. When we first went down there, we had no set ideas. We just recorded the ideas each of us had at that particular time. It was simply a matter of getting together and letting it come out. Eddie Kramer, who had engineered earlier Zeppelin albums, was heavily involved, particularly at Stargroves. But later Keith Harwood came in for certain tracks and overdubs at Olympic and Island Studios, with the final mixing completed at Electric Lady Studios in New York. Before the band reconvened at Stargroves, Page had already begun writing and producing some of the album's key songs in his recently put together home studio. The band's success had enabled him to assemble a really well-featured facility where he could record fully formed pieces on his multi-track machine. Jones also had a similar facility at his house and was able to do the same. In a Rolling Stone magazine interview from 2020, Page said on The Rain Song, "I recently found a really early personal demo tape that had been missing for a long while, but it's got a full orchestration of Rain Song. It goes all through to the very end, the same way you know it, even with the bits in the middle where it gets a bit heavier, before it goes back to the light and caressing parts. It's all in there, the mellotron and everything, and it's not played as well, like the John Paul Jones version, because I knew he could do a really good job on it, but it's there, every part of it." For recording, Page was still mainly using his Gibson Les Paul No. 1 through Marshall heads during this period, often favouring the JMP Superbass over his 100-watt Super Lead. For microphones on the cabs, he usually had one close mic and one set further back to capture more ambience. This could vary from a ribbon mic like the Bayer M160 or a dynamic such as the Shure SM57, then with a condenser as a far mic like a Neumann U87 or 67. When layering guitar parts, Jimmy would slightly change the tuning, maybe only by plus or minus 5 cents, but just enough to cause an interesting chorus effect that would give the parts a much richer sound. For The Song Remains the Same, the famous double-necked Gibson EDS 1275 would become synonymous with the song for live performances, but he didn't need this convenience in the studio, so the 12-string parts are actually played on his Fender Electric 12, the same one he used on Stairway to Heaven. His main acoustic guitar from the album was the Harmony Sovereign H1260, which was used on Over the Hills, the same guitar he used on Stairway to Heaven and Ramble On. He also had his Martin D28 in use around this time, as you can see him use it here on Black Country Woman, which would actually end up on Physical Graffiti, but recorded during the sessions for Houses of the Holy. Robert Plant's vocal chain was the Neumann U67 into the Helios console, with a touch of compression from the URI 1176 and reverb from the EMT 140 plate, with occasionally some tape echo. John Paul Jones mainly played his 62 Fender Jazz Bass into a custom DI box for a direct sound, and also into the acoustic 360 amplifier with an AKG D12 mic on the cab, compressed with the URI LA2A. On recording John Bonham, Kramer said, "Here's the thing about Bonham. If you put him in the room and you only had 3 mics, you could record John Bonham, because that's the way he hit the damn drums, and the way he tuned the kit. At Stargroves, we had an opportunity to put Bonzo in a room entirely by himself, which was this huge sort of conservatory, basically a big wooden room with a carved wooden window frame. Very ancient sort of room with incredible acoustics. So I set him up in there with just a stereo pair of overhead mics, a snare mic, tom mics and bass mic, and he just banged away. The first time he hit the snare, oh my god, and when he came into the truck to hear it he said, "Nice mate, it's alright." Kramer didn't specify what mics were used, but it's likely the AKG D12 or Sennheiser MD421 on the kick, the Neumann U87 as overheads, along with the Shure SM57 on the snare. The tom mics I'm unsure of, but you can see them used here. Kramer's remarks about 3 mics was not just hypothetical. Apparently for Jamaica, only 3 mics were actually used according to the book Led Zeppelin All the Songs. These being the D12 on the kick and just 2 overheads, which were the U87s. This would go on to be Bonham's preferred setup, as he really wasn't a fan of close miking. The album is characterised with the band really starting to venture away from their strict rock style and trying out other genres they were listening to at the time. The Crunch was a James Brown-inspired funk experiment. It showcases Jones' clavinet work and Bonham's syncopated drumming. It was mostly recorded live in the studio, with Jones using a Honor clavinet D6 run through a wah-wah pedal. Jamaica, the band's venture into reggae territory, was recorded with a focus on capturing a live feel. The song's title is based on an old British joke. "I took my wife to the Caribbean last week." Jamaica? No, she wanted to go. Page used his Telecaster for the rhythm parts and his Les Paul for the solo sections. The Rain song was apparently in response to George Harrison's reservations about the band not having any ballads. The result is one of their most beautiful songs, featuring intricate guitar work from Page using a Dan Electro guitar, tuned to an unusual open tuning of D, G, C, G, C, D. The song's orchestral feel was achieved through Jones's mellotron and piano work. According to the recording notes, the piano was a Steinway Grand at Island Studios, recorded with the lid fully open and the microphones placed strategically to capture the room's ambience. No Quarter is a great example of how the band used vari-speed tape manipulation to change the tonality and pitch of Robert Plant's vocals. This was done by deliberately altering the speed of the tape during the recording, slowed down typically by 15 to 20%, then played back at normal speed, creating the pitched-up vocal effect. The ambient sounds throughout this track were created using an EMS VCS3 synthesizer's noise generator, routed through the voltage control filters that were manually manipulated during recording to create the swirling atmospheric effects. Digital effects such as delays weren't available at this point, so it's still tape delay, mainly using the Echoplex, which were used on other sources such as vocals also. At the highly productive Stargroves sessions with Kramer, 6 Houses of the Holy tracks emerged. The song remains the same, the Rain song, Over the Hills and Far Away, Dancing Days, Jamaica and The Ocean. 2 songs from the Stargroves sessions actually ended up on Physical Graffiti, The Rover and Black Country Woman. This is a photo of Page and Plant recording the latter here. The sessions were highly productive but also fun, with Kramer saying. The lads were really happy there, recording with the amazing acoustics of the old mansion and frolicking around in the park-like setting. The band were great to work with. They were so confident and so happy at what was going on. The general feeling was excellent. This is shown here with the band dancing to the playback of the newly recorded Dancing Days, Kramer said. The truck doors are open and we're playing back what was just recorded, so the lads decided to get into it and dance around to this great new track. Houses of the Holy represented a crucial artistic step for Led Zeppelin by expanding their sonic palette without abandoning their core sound, demonstrating remarkable music versatility. The album reached number 1 on the Billboard charts and has since been certified diamond, selling over 11 million copies in the United States alone. 50 years after its release, it remains a testament to Led Zeppelin's artistic vision and technical prowess, a perfect marriage of musicianship, songwriting, and studio craftsmanship that continues to inspire and influence new generations of musicians and producers.